Welcome back to the Double Your Sales Now show. I'm super excited because our guest, Abby Walker, is back. And today we're going to be discussing how serial entrepreneurs are succeeding during the pandemic. Yes, succeeding. So first, I just want to say, hi, Abby. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much for having me back on. I always love chatting with you.
Me too. And you've been on my mind for a while. I'm like, I got to have Abby back. There's so much going on for her. There's so many cool things. And I feel like you have some powerful messages to share right now. So I'm glad you're here. We're going to dive in a minute. For those of you who don't know Abby yet, you're going to want to connect with her, and I'll introduce her in a moment. Before we do that, of course, I have a few housekeeping things. If you haven't yet, go to salescoachnow.com/gift, get our free PDF, 6 Secrets to Double Your Sales Now. It's a one-pager, super simple, easy, put it in front of you. It'll even give you like a little energetic shift, probably just because it's sitting there. So hopefully that will help you get it. Also, if you haven't been to virtual sales camp yet, things are shifting around these parts. We're in a little bit of a cool up level. And so we're kind of working out like what's next and what's coming this fall. Right now, though, virtual sales camp is happening. 2 classes in July, 2 more in August. And of course, you can join us from anywhere, even all over the world. And we've now had clients coming in from all different directions over the US, which has been fun. And we, of course, want to expand to our listeners who are all over the world. So join us at Virtual Sales Camp. Because you're a listener, you get a super special price point. Just email us at contact@salescoachnow.com and my team will get that for you. And if you haven't yet, you can also go to UrsulaMentjes.com. I have lots of cool keynotes and lots of new stuff that we're offering virtually and doing lots of training all over right now. So if you have a sales team or a different group that could use a boost right now, let us know. We'd love to support you. So with that, I just want to say thank you to our listeners all over the world. And it's cool. I love looking at the list and I'm like, who is listening in Iceland? Like, who are you, right? Like, email us at contact@salescoachnow because we want to hear from you and we want to connect with you. And if you have topics that you want to hear, let us know. You're going to love Abby as much as we all do. And when I say we, she's a big favorite in our community. Abby Walker, she's the CEO. She's also an author. She's a wife. She's a mom. And she's on a mission to help alleviate people's, mostly women's, pain so that they can become the greatest versions of themselves. She's the founder and CEO of Vivian, an incredible, she didn't write this, I'm saying this, line of insoles that empower women to wear heels 4 times longer. And I'm talking about the heels that are super cute but hurt your feet without pain so they can focus more on their dreams and less on their feet. She's also the CEO of TAOG, which is her very cool new line of all natural topical products that powerfully soothe our aching bodies so we get back to doing the things we love without the pain. And I got to try it when it was just like kind of almost in the very beginning. So I feel super special and it's such a cool product. And listen to this, Abby's now the host of Undercover Woo podcast, which I got to be a guest on, which was such an honor, where she curates information that helps both women and men find ways to quiet self-doubt. You know, her message is all about living unapologetically, feeling less overwhelmed, all the things, and how to clean the homes and bodies in which we live. I love it. And also how to strengthen your intuition. We can all use more of that. And finally, how to become unstoppable in our pursuit of freedom. She's also the author of the book, Strap On a Pair. Look it up. It's such a good book. Written to inspire fellow middle-aged, middle management, middle-class moms to take the first step or the next step toward finding there's something more. Amen to that. And she's got a cool community of followers. And she currently lives in Denver, Colorado with her amazing husband, 2 incredible kiddos, a rescue cat, and the sweetest street dog. She's from Mexico, right? I mean, yes. How cool are you? I miss Denver as well. Abby, welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So we're just gonna dig in, okay? I mixed up the questions. So for those of you who are regular listeners, you're gonna see that these are slightly different. If you want the regular set of questions, you have to go back to the last time Abby was on the show, and I definitely invite you to do that. Today, I want to start, though, we're talking about successful serial entrepreneurs like you, Abby, who just, you get the next idea and you create the next thing and you throw some ideas out and you keep some, and some are successful, some aren't. Many of yours have been successful. So give us an update since you were last on the show. What's on?
Yeah, so a lot. So I think the last time I was on was, a couple of years ago. So since then, Vivian has gone international. I launched a line of sandals, Goldie Lou sandals. I have since again, kind of transitioned. So I've not gone into the next round of manufacturing because the profitability wasn't where I wanted it to be, but a super cool product. And hopefully we'll be relaunching that soon.
Good.
Yes. And I know that
I love them. I'm a fan.
There's as well. And then launched TAOG last summer, which is this incredible line of all natural topical products designed to alleviate pain. And then 2 months ago, like you mentioned, launched this podcast, which has been an incredible learning experience, kind of this journey in and of itself. So yeah, it's just been continue to roll with life's punches and whatnot, and continue to learn. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. We're lifelong learners here.
Yes.
So I'm curious. I mean, all this stuff has been going on. You had Vivian Liu, you were launching other, all these companies, actually all the companies were already launched. Then you were launching the podcast. And I'm not sure I'm trying to remember where the pandemic fit into that, especially with the podcast launch. But when the pandemic first hit, right? Like here you are, business owner, multiple businesses, lots of responsibility. Like take us through that first week and then what has happened since then.
Sure. So I'm going to kind of start in 2019, so a little bit before the pandemic. And I used to wear this slogan as a badge of honor. And I used to tell everyone, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing. It was kind of this mantra where like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm still running these businesses. Well, unfortunately, that mantra, it kind of came to fruition. So I kept telling myself and people who would ask like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing, but I happen to run these multi-million-dollar companies. Right. Well, in 2018, I actually partnered with an affiliate group. So what they did, sales were low in 2018 compared to 2017. And I was kind of feeling this urge to try something different. And so I had stumbled upon this company where they take your product, they bundle it, and then they advertise on your behalf, and you pay them a commission for each sale. It was a great setup, a great organization, and I started to work with them in late 2018. The volume that they were pumping through Vivian Liu was incredible, and because of their partnership, we were able to do $1 million in sales in November of 2018, which is incredible. That.
Yeah.
Yes. So the volume that they were pumping through was incredible, as I mentioned, but it only made sense if the majority of the volume came from the US, because shipping overseas and the pricing overseas, it just didn't make sense. Then in March of 2019, their biggest affiliate partner was kicked off of Facebook and Google. And so they were no longer generating the volume to come through the system. And most of the sales were coming from international sales. In the meantime, Facebook ad costs started to go like this, and profitability of the company started to go down. So sales were still great. Top line numbers were still great. It's just profitability had started to slowly go down. And by the end of 2019, I was like, man, maybe I really don't know what I'm doing. Like it was almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Mm-hmm. So I was quickly falling out of love with Vivian Liu, which was my main company. Still loved TAOG, still loved, doing what I was doing, but I was like, maybe it's time for a change. So in early 2020, before the pandemic hit, I actually had decided that I wanted to sell Vivian Liu. And thank goodness the company wasn't profitable because no one was really interested in looking at an unprofitable company. And then the pandemic hit, and part of me was petrified, like almost I couldn't move. I was just paralyzed with fear. But I quickly realized that the pandemic and all of its awfulness and sickness and all of that actually allowed me an opportunity to press pause. And so I actually went through my entire credit card statement, all of the people who I paid on a monthly basis to work on Vivian Liu. And it turned out that I wasn't using half of the services I was paying for. So I quickly and very carefully ramped down Vivian Liu. Not the advertising spend, not sales. I wasn't interested in not making sales, but I didn't need a whole slew of people supporting the business anymore. And it actually felt like I was coming home. So I used to run Vivian Liu just myself. for years, like 2 or 3 years before I hired on customer service and a Facebook advertising company. And it almost felt like I was coming home. So I was in Facebook every day. I was again doing my profitability sheet every day. I was answering customer emails. I was in there, quietly sending a thank you every time I got an order out to customers. So it's almost been a rebirth of Vivian Liu and me and our connection and having fun again in the business. So part of me is super grateful for the pandemic.
Yeah, I think I've had so many of these similar conversations of the opportunity to take the pause, to reset, to really pivot. It's weird, but it's like right before the pandemic for so many people, there was messages that were trying to get through or, because I think all of us were like, it's 2020, let's go hard, let's go, let's make it happen. And then we all stopped and we all realized there was maybe something different waiting for us or a shift or a letting go. And I think, we talked a little bit before the recording, but you had mentioned too, that this then led to the profitability again. Like it brought you, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. And let's talk about how important that is in entrepreneurs. It's not like top line's great, but what's hitting your bottom line, and that's what really matters.
Absolutely. So I think as an entrepreneur, you get so almost drunk off of a top line number. Like you can say that you've had $3 million in sales this year, but if the profitability isn't there, who cares? Right. And so I am so incredibly grateful to have this opportunity to press pause, to kind of get back down to the core business and the core needs and necessities of the business, and not these fluffy things that weren't necessarily driving increased sales or increased profitability. So yes, sales are slower. And yes, we are in the middle of the summer slump where people aren't necessarily buying as many high heels or insoles for high heels as they will be in Q4. But regardless of the top line number in sales, those sales are profitable. And it's hitting the bottom line, and I'm able to pay off debt. And it's so freeing and so refreshing and such a glimmer of hope for all of the businesses that I'm in. And I think for entrepreneurs in general, like stop chasing something that isn't necessarily a real number and just focus on the real number that comes in every single day and hits the bottom line.
Yeah. And so much I think about what you're saying too, is about getting back to the basics in business and, the needle movers, like what really matters, what really brings in more profit to your company. Where are you just spending money like crazy and not thinking about it anymore, which can happen. And I think this has been a great time to go back and reassess all those costs and where they're going. And does it even matter? Should we be doing that anymore?
Yes.
So, you've kind of talked about this, but is there anything else specific that you've done to really pivot or other changes you made that have really helped you?
So not in terms of pivoting. So for Vivian Liu specifically and TAOG, it's just, again, reassessing and falling back in love with direct to consumer marketing, which is where the sweet spot is for me in terms of creativity and profitability. And so throughout this pandemic, Facebook ad costs have gone down, which has been incredible. And so I'm now able to make sales in line with where I was in 2016, early 2017, which was unheard of. And no one ever thought that we'd get back to those levels in terms of ad costs. So super grateful on that front. And it also, I honestly, this is going to sound so woo, but that's okay. I have a podcast named Undercover Woo. I feel like I lost my connection to the universe, and I was no longer receiving messages because I was so busy chasing a number and so busy doing stuff that wasn't moving the needle that I've actually been able to kind of quiet the noise and get back to receiving messages and testing things that sometimes work out, sometimes don't, but it's so freeing to kind of be operating in this space again.
Yeah. Yay. Well, congratulations. And thank you for sharing that, because I know it's not easy to go through those pieces, but it's so great to be on the other side of it. Yes. Especially for you. Now you're moving into Q4. So you're like, okay, you see
we're on the way. Yes. But I will tell you that it was a hard year. Like 2019 was a hard year. And again, in early 2020, it was a hard year, but I knew there was a lesson learned. And so I kept telling myself not to get discouraged. there is a lesson to learn here. I just need to be patient in learning that lesson. So I'm grateful again, almost to the pandemic, for fast forwarding that lesson and getting that lesson to me quicker than I think it would have otherwise.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think for all of us, like looking for those silver linings is so important right now. So you mentioned Facebook ads, lower cost, that's been helpful. What would you say, for all of your businesses, what are your top two sales or marketing strategies? Like, what can you share with us, and maybe what's different from what you were doing before?
Sure. So before, I'll say prior to COVID, I was really looking at just making a sale. So it was almost like pushing people through the system, like make a sale, make a sale. There was no really pure intention behind kind of my marketing efforts. And I feel like I've gotten back to, I need to get this message in front of the women who need to see it. And so however that happens, it happens. And so really, again, diving back into Facebook because the ad costs have gotten lower, and email has played such a critical role in maintaining sales throughout this period. And so I am actually now revisiting how to gain more leads as opposed to chasing sales. So, and I think that that's different in a direct to consumer product based business, because I know in other business types, like email is everything. Like that's the lead that you want to capture. For me, it was always the first sale, and then I'll follow up with email afterwards. But I think there's so much value even for a product-based business to capture the email. And so it's just putting out information that's of interest, putting out emails that are of help to women, not just trying to urge them to purchase the insoles.
So interesting. And, for a while there, it was like, there were these statistics that, if you got a 6% open rate, you were having a good day, right? I mean, it's like email just went, and now, so share with me, what do you think? Is it because a lot of people are sitting in their homes now working, and we're online buying more stuff because we're bored? Like what's going on? Like what's driving all those people to open your emails, do you think?
This is going to sound woo.
Just say it.
The energy behind the email, like my writing of the email isn't buy my insole. The energy behind my insole or behind my email is I want to provide information. I was on kind of a mission at the beginning of the pandemic to encourage women to wear high heels. If they were in yoga pants and sweatshirts, put on a pair of high heels. Because for me, as soon as I put on a pair of high heels, I literally feel different. I feel more empowered. My spirits are lifted. Like it literally changes the way I stand, the way I sit, the way I feel about my body. And so it was just kind of this movement in the beginning to say, hey, like it's okay to feel down and blue, but if you want for just like 5 minutes to feel better, just try stepping into a pair of high heels. And in those messages, I was not trying to, and buy my insoles, no, like there is some superpower about high heels, I promise. And if you have them, in your closet, dust them off and put on a pair, even if you're in yoga pants. And I promise you'll feel better. So I feel like the energy behind my emails shifted. And so now they have more of a sales bent to them, because I feel like people are more apt to purchase now and aren't in this like fear-stricken space. But the intention behind them is far more pure than what they were last year.
Yeah, that's so powerful. And thank you for being so vulnerable and sharing that, because we can get into those modes of, not reviewing the copy or not feeling what the copy feels like when it lands. And so going back and just, I mean, I've done that myself. And sometimes you're just like, what did I send out? Or, and then other times it's like, oh, that actually sounded really good. Like I want that. Right. So trying it on and noticing the tone and the intention and the energy behind it is really powerful. So many things we could talk about. You are a serial entrepreneur and you wear it proudly with your high heels. I love that. I want to hear, 2 to 3 strategies. Like what can you share with our listeners that's been helpful to you as you've held multiple businesses and, launched a podcast and all of that?
So, especially during this time and having so many different kind of businesses and outlets and whatnot, one of the things that has helped me particularly during this time, and it was super hard in the beginning, was to get quiet. Find 5 minutes, 10 minutes to go lay in the yard, or to lay in your office, or to sit still, or to take the dog for a walk. I now take my dog for a walk in the morning, and I don't take my phone. I feel like even if I have my phone in my pocket on silence, I'm still tethered to something. And so just try and find literally 5 or 10 minutes to be quiet. And I don't meditate, so I don't even consider this meditation. It's just literally giving yourself the opportunity to clear your mind and not think about anything. And it's in those moments where I think like sparks of clarity come into play, and you can hear this like inner voice or hear the universe kind of drop things into you. So I encourage people to just get quiet for 5 to 10 minutes. And even if it's in your shower, like while you're during your shower time, like intentionally be like, okay, this is going to be my quiet time.
That's so good, because it's very loud out there right now. There's just so much information and so much, just lots of feelings going on. So you've got to find that space. And it's interesting you say that. I've been taking a lot more walks too. I'm just trying to be in nature, or just sit in my backyard, sit by a tree, sit on the ground. Like it just feels so good right now. And as you know, we have Bella, our new puppy. And she's just been, like puppy energy, dog energy, any pet energy, cats, like having them in your house is just so powerful, and so grateful for our little companions. So, okay, we're going off script. Like I usually tell my listeners, like, or the people I'm interviewing, that my guests, that's what you are, what we're going to talk about. And we have a little bit more time. So I want to talk about undercover woo.
Yes. Let's do it.
Here's what, so, okay. Like you're interviewing all these super cool people in the space of spirituality and metaphysics and quantum and all the stuff. I just want you to share with us like 2 or 3 nuggets that have come through the show that have been really meaningful for you. And then of course you have to tell us how people can listen.
Okay. There have been so many nuggets. One of them, so you're putting me on the spot now. So don't like stressing out.
This is the good stuff. This is the good stuff.
I know. So last week's guest, she said, I loved this. We were talking about chakras and how to clear, how she is an energy healer, but unlike traditional energy healers, she doesn't go in and clear the energy for you. She actually brings awareness to she calls them boxes stuck within your the levels of your chakras, so that you can decide whether or not you want to unbox them, or excuse me, you have to unbox them if she brings awareness to them, but whether you want to keep it, donate it, like if it's an idea that it's just stuck on you and you need to get it out of your system so there's space for you to receive other things, donate it to someone else or trash it. And I'm like, that's so brilliant. That's brilliant. Like, I just love that analogy of this stuck energy. And then once you have awareness of it, what to do with it. And it's like cleaning your house, like trash it, donate it, or keep it. So it was just, super simple, but super impactful. Another thing she said, which was brilliant, is each one of us has an infinite connection to the universe, God, source, whatever, to receive whatever we want. And it's like this gold, like, beam into the sky to receive what you want. And if you compare yourself, which it is so easy to compare yourself, especially as an entrepreneur, especially in the online space, to look at others and be like, oh, I like what she's doing, or, oh, I'm not doing it as much as good as she is. You are actually taking some of your gold channel and handing it over to her versus keeping it to yourself. So I have suffered from feeling less than and comparing myself to others. And when she said this, it like was a kick to the gut. It was like, yes. One thing that you have said to me in the past is stay in your lane. Just do you, stay in your lane, put your blinders on, and don't get distracted. And I'm like, this is just another way of saying this. And who wants to give their special powers to someone else? No one.
Right. And do those special powers even land very well? Or is it just like annoying to them as it flies there, right? Oh, that's so good, because that's just a great visual too, to remember and to really just sink into and be grateful for who we are. And it's the whole imposter syndrome and the, am I good enough? I mean, Abby, I think every guest I've had on here has talked about that as I've talked about it, right? And it's like an epidemic. And so that's a great reminder as well. We're going to have to listen to, so who was she? What's her name? Do you remember? I'm putting you
Yes.
totally then I'm asking you to remember.
Yeah, Tamara Arnold. And she actually does chakras for businesses. So like business owners, she clears the chakra. Yeah. So she doesn't just focus on like energy. Her niche is for business owners and entrepreneurs. So it's really interesting, but I think was episode 8, I think is what we're on now. So yeah. Okay. So
cool. Any other super cool, or something that came up that you're just like, ooh, it flipped your lid. One more good one.
One more. Okay. Well, I don't know if this is going to flip anybody's lid, but one of the things that I struggled with launching this podcast is, what is woo? What is woo? It could be, I'm not an expert in anything, which is why I'm interviewing these experts. But I think one of the guests said, woo is whatever works for you. And I'm like, that's brilliant, because it gives people permission to dabble in a bunch of different things, whether it's crystals or EFT or energy healing or baths or salts or candles, whatever it is to help kind of cleanse your energy and be open to receiving certain messages. And so while woo can be scary for people, especially those who have never dabbled in it, I guess the podcast is just an invitation to come listen to all of these different experts. And if something piques your interest, try it out. Just test it. And if it doesn't, cool, try something else. So I love the definition of woo is what works for you.
I like it. What works for you. That's so awesome. Yeah. All right. So as we wrap up, tell us all the things. So how do we listen to the podcast? How do we find you? How do we buy insoles, your awesome book, your new TAOG? How do we find all the things?
Yes. And congrats on pronouncing it. You did a good job.
Thank you. Just so everyone knows, I had to write it down and practice. And now fighting through my Minnesota accent, I got it.
You got it. So Vivian Liu, you can find us at vivianliu.com. That's VIVIANLOU.com. TAOG, which are these topical products that are incredible, you can find at This Is TAOG. So this is, and then TAOG is TAOG, goat, backwards.com. And many people ask why the name TAOG, and it actually is goat backwards because it stands for, it's kind of a representation of our reputation of being the greatest of all time, which is GOAT, goat. Mm-hmm. So, and then Goldie Lou sandals, you can find at Goldie Lou, GOLDIELOU.com. And then Undercover Woo podcast, you can find on Apple Podcasts.
Awesome. And you're all over social media. Where should we go first? Instagram, Facebook?
Either whichever platform floats your boat. That we're on both. So yes.
Awesome. One last final word from you, Abby, for all the serial entrepreneurs out there in the world. What do you have to say to them? What's your message today?
It is very easy to get distracted, particularly as a serial entrepreneur, both by ideas and the daily to-dos. And one of the things that has been a godsend during this whole time is picking one thing, focusing on it, finishing it, and going to the next, as opposed to having being bombarded by multiple things. It's just focus on one thing or one business for the day. And then the next day, focus on one thing or the next business for the day. So focus and one thing at a time.
I love it. That makes me think of my big long list. That's great advice. Go back and just pick one, finish this one.
Yes.
All right, Abby, thanks for coming back to the Double Your Sales Now show. It's always a pleasure to have you, and I look forward to having you back again.
Sounds great. Thank you.
My pleasure. And thank you to our listeners all over the world. We're so grateful for you. Thank you for listening. If you haven't yet, please leave us a review. And after you leave that review on iTunes, you can go to salescoachnow.com/giveaway, and we have some cool gifts for you there. That's it for today, everybody. Thanks again. We'll see you soon.